Edition of NASCAR DFS Preview with the Sports Chief. I'm AustYn, and we are heading into Sunday for the second part of the doubleheader for Michigan International Speedway. So the Consumers Energy 400. I'm not going to break down a whole lot of the stats like I did in the last video, just because we kind of know how the track is. If you watched the race, you saw how the race played out, basically, and the strategies and everything that go along with it. It's still the 312 miler, which I'll still never really fully understand why they're calling it the Consumers Energy 400 when there's 312 miles. So anyway, so not the 200 laps that we're used to. Kevin Harvick came away with the win. No shock there. It's his fourth win. We did not do that well in our lineup. Kyle Busch actually did perform, and Chase Elliott did as well. It was more so with Cole Custer wrecking. He was running the top 20. Austin Dillon wrecking at the end. The Michigan races have for sure been wreck fest at the end. And I don't know if it's got anything to do with that spoiler where people, they have a higher grip level, so they're trying to push it a little more. I'm not really sure. But anyway, with the race results that we had, of course, they're inverting the field from 20th to 1st. So our starting positions are really, really weird. A lot of your top-notch guys, your top price guys are going to be priced more. So you're really playing, basically you might as well just pull the dice out. Just kind of roll with it and see in terms of DFS. So let's just see what DraftKings has to offer for us. Let's go ahead and get rolling and kind of break it down and analyze it for you guys. By the way, it's definitely going to be a cash game strategy. So these picks are going to be heavily owned guys and double ups more than likely. So scroll up to the top here. Kevin Harvick starting in 20th at 11.5. Denny Hamlin starting in 15th at 11.1. Martin Truex Jr. starting in 18th at 10.8. Brad Keselowski starting in 19th at 10.5. And Joey Logano starting in 13th at 10.2. So we have the 5 10K drivers. We also have Ryan Blaney at 9.9. Chase Elliott starting in 14th. Well, Blaney's starting in 17th, by the way. Chase Elliott starting in 14th at 9.6. And Kyle Busch starting in 16th at 9.4. So those are pretty... you have really great options there, and they're all starting really high. Eric Almirola is your first guy within the top 10 at 9.2, and he's starting in 5th. So I'm not really sure why Christopher Bell's that high. But anyway, he's starting in 8th. That's not really a great price point. I think they kind of just went off of the first race, to be perfectly honest with you. You're going to say if I had the prices here, but it looks pretty similar. Anyway, I'm not going to go with those guys as of yet, so we're going to scroll on down here. Typically, it's Corey LaJoie is the cutoff. So yeah, we're going to cut it off at Corey. We have some other drivers there. But Corey's starting in 22nd spot. Pretty high for Corey. Don't see him finishing higher than that. If he does, it's not going to be worth it to choose him. Ryan Preece kind of in the same boat in 25th. Ty Dillon in 23rd. And Suarez in 24th. Kind of not really worth it to pick those guys. To me, I think the first guy you should consider would be Michael McDowell starting in 29th. And this is where I'm going with this. So Austin Dillon was actually a pick that we went with last time. His average finish here, counting the Firekeepers Casino race, is still 16.9. So I'm going with Austin Dillon. If he can get me a top 20, that would be great, especially at that price. $6,500 for Austin Dillon. You got a race winner there. And did I mention that his average, as you can tell here, his fantasy points per race is 31. Christopher Bell's 31.6. Why in the world is Christopher Bell 9,000? But anyway, better for us if you're watching these videos. So, Austin Dillon, going with him in 31st. Think that's a great option. And I'm also going to pull the trigger on Cole Custer starting in 34th. He's at 7.5 now. I'm sure he's going to a backup car, as Dylan might as well, but still just too great a value. As I mentioned, Cole Custer, to me, is a top 15 driver. He's in a Stewart-Haas car, and a top 20 is really likely from that starting spot, and he's really pretty cheap at 7,500. So pulling the trigger on Custer, that leaves us with 9,000. So this is where it gets interesting. This is kind of my thought process. Well, we have $9,000. Let me scroll here and look and see who's under the 10K number that would be interesting to go with. And as you can tell, Almirola is starting in 5th. Christopher Bell starting in 8th. Kurt Busch is starting in 11th. DiBenedetto 6th. Bowman 21st. That's pretty good. Jimmy Johnson in 9th. Eric Jones in 10th. William Byron in 7th. Boyer in 2nd. Then you got Stenhouse in 32nd. And Matt Kenseth starting in 4th. Ryan Newman 28th. So if I keep going, I'm just going to go through all of them there. But anyway, looking at this, it's fairly easy. You got to go with Alex Bowman there. He's starting in 21st. I just like his odds of getting a top 15 or so, and those spots are really key. The reason why these guys are starting in the top 10 is because they were outside of the top 10 in the first race. And Bowman actually hung around there for a little bit. So I like Alex Bowman. He actually saves us a little bit of money. Now we have $9,200. So, in order to get two, you really want to get two of these guys up here. So you want to get two of the stars that are starting inside the top 13, which all of them, actually outside the top 13, sorry about that, which they all are. You kind of want to do mathematical equations with, what's the highest point differential for these guys. As you know, DraftKings you get a point per pass, and the higher up you finish in a race, the more points you get. So that's pretty key. And in order to do that, you have to go with someone pretty cheap. So, again, I cut it off to McDowell. If we go McDowell, that allows us to get 10-7, which you could get Harvick and Blaney, which is pretty good. But he started in 29th. McDowell, that's a little high for him, to be honest with you. And I'm actually going to pull the trigger on John Hunter Nemechek. Reason being, even though he started in the 36th spot, he did have 3 wrecks. He spun out 3 times today in the earlier race. But stage 1 and stage 2, he finished inside the top 20 for both. So he's got top 20 speed. I like John Hunter Nemechek. I think he probably learned a lot. And it's pretty rough for a rookie to hop in that car and go out there and finish, expect him to finish well. I mean, you look at it, Cole Custer got 34th. And Christopher Bell did pretty well, but it's just really tough to see where to go with that. So I like that right there. I like going John Hunter Nemechek, and I'm going to pull the trigger probably on Kevin Harvick. I don't really know why I wouldn't. He's just been dominant. He looked dominant in the race at Michigan, and when you can get Kevin Harvick starting in 20th spot at the rate he's been running, it's pretty hard to pass up. I really like Brad Keselowski for this race, but it's really hard for me to go to Brad. If I went Brad, I would have to go one of his teammates, probably Ryan Blaney over Logano. Logano is going to be a little lower owned, which could be great. I think if you're going tournament, you might need to go like Denny Hamlin and, you can't afford a Logano if you do that route. But you could chop off some other drivers there, maybe get McDowell instead of Nemechek and go with that. But I'm going with Kevin Harvick and Kyle Busch. So Kyle Busch looked pretty fast in the race. He was a top 5 car. Chase Elliott was as well, but that 14th spot, we can get another spot with Kyle, and that's what I'm going with. I'm going to pick Kyle Busch. So I feel pretty confident that we have 5 guys that could win this race. Feel really good about it. So this is definitely a cash game lineup. Now, if you're going for tournament, you're trying to win. I still think you have to go AustYn Dillon. That's just way too good of a spot for him. Um, you probably still need to go Cole Custer, and I would probably still go Bowman. Um, but you could go Joey Logano and probably like Kurt Busch and Eric Jones, maybe. That's not a bad looking lineup whatsoever. Um, but here's what we're going with. So we're going with Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch. Kyle's got to win a race here eventually, right? Like, Kyle, he's had a rough season, but then again, hey, he's averaged 31 just like Christopher Bell. So um, I still think Kyle is starting to click. Something's got to start clicking there. Alex Bowman starting in 21st. Cole Custer starting in 34th. Scroll on down here. AustYn Dillon in 31st at 6'5", and John Hunter Nemechek in 36th at 6'4". So we have Harvick 11.5, then we got everybody else is under 10K there. So that's what we're rolling out here with the Sports Chief. I think you have a lot of options you can play with. It's just, again, those top-notch, I keep saying that, but the elite drivers in your field, it's going to be really tough to decipher who to go with. You're basically just, it is gambling, but you kind of have to have that intuition. Like, to me, Cole Custer had a really fast car. He was in an unfortunate accident. AustYn Dillon was the same way. Ricky Stenhouse actually was in the top 10, so he's not a bad option. It's really hard for me to go Ricky at this track. John Hunter Nemechek was running pretty well, and I believe he bumped with Chris Buescher at one point in the race, so that kind of ruined him there. And Harvick's hard to go against right now, especially in that 20th spot. So anyway, if you like what you see here, like, comment, subscribe to our YouTube channel here. Follow us on Twitter at TheSportsChief, and we're also on Instagram as well. Hope this helps you make your lineup. Again, I feel like I didn't help you guys as much as I could in the first race as far as the strategy, history, things like that. But with the starting lineups being inverted, we don't really have a big strategy. And your fastest cars are going to be back there mired in the top or 15th back. So best of luck to you in the Consumers Energy 400, and have a good rest of your race weekend.